Alright, guys. So sorry for everything that's going on right now. I don't know what's going on. Did it work? I'm hoping. Like, okay. I don't see any of the wording at all. Why the heck is it not showing up? Okay. There we go. Alright. Probably looks a lot better, right, guys? Cool. Alright. So, alright. As I said, I'm sorry for all day. We'll go here. So an update. I am taking the computer back today. I'm getting my money back. There will be no more graphics card, nothing. Just you're gonna have to wait until stimulus comes through or something, guys. I am so sorry. I had to put my old capture card back in. This morning was a mess. I had to take apart, put it back, everything up, and when I went live, it just crashed on me, and it just made it very hard for me to fix everything. So I came out with a quick video explaining the situation, hoping you guys understand. This was not part of my plan at all. Thank you though. We're gonna play some Among Us, and we're gonna try to have some fun. So if you want to support the channel, please do I have a link going in my chat box, my moderators, under Legend of All Gamers or I think it's not Legend of All Gamers. I don't know what it is. It's uh, Ultimate Crazy Gamers is sending out a link that donates directly to my my it donates directly to my PayPal if you guys want to do that. Also, I will be putting a link below in the video eventually, and that would be for Tubbuddy. If you guys never heard of it, it's a website that helps small channels like you or me. One, gives you an affiliate link without having to do, 25K or more. Two, it gives you tools to help you demonetize with demonetization. You don't have to worry about it. They automatically check for it. And if there is any manual sent over, they'll send it over automatically for you. I'm telling you, with all the stuff that's coming out with YouTube, this helps a lot. COPPA, they make sure you're equipped with the nearest COPPA rules. They even check to see if your video's 18 and over or not, or what YouTube deems. And they'll let you know. So if you're maybe not even just a small channel, maybe you're a bigger channel and you're worried about, but you're like mediocre, you just hit that like 2,000 mark, you're starting to get your monetization going, and you want to make sure everything is, before you submit it, just go into YouTube, buddy, and submit your channel. It'll check all your, once you install it, it checks all your stuff. The link, if you install it, it does help the channel. And for disclaimer purposes, I do get a certain amount of money back if you buy their services. It's free to install and to have some of their services, but if you want to upgrade, I do get a certain amount of percentage back. And that changes depending on how many people install it. But they are very helpful with also making sure you have good thumbnails. They keep track of what your percentages are. They help you find good titles. So yeah, if you guys are interested in a little bit more, I will do a video based on it later. That's coming up later. I will have an official trailer for it in the videos starting soon. But yeah, guys, just stay tuned. Definitely paying off those consoles, getting everything ready. Some major news today, though. A lot of major news, actually. So I did a video, and not too long ago, and that video was it was a hard time. That video was basically about how Bethesda and Xbox came out, and I know with their own merger. And guys, I am a PS5 fan just as much as you are. I'm also an Xbox fan just as much as everybody else. I am not a fan base console gamer, and I would hate to ever be claimed as one, because you know what, if I really had to go with a fan base console gamer, before even the consoles came out, I was a straight arcade gamer. Okay, consoles came out and I went to the NES and all that, Atari and all that. So before you go and say I'm just a fanboy for PS5, or I'm a fanboy for Xbox, or I'm a fanboy for this and that, don't even have a clue. I will school you so hard on this, because there's so much stuff that has changed over the years that people have not realized, that all the games started from the simple starter wars, and those were between Nintendo, Sony, and Sega, and Atari. After all that has been said and done, there is nothing you can tell me now that makes me less credible to all you fanboys who say or all your Xbox fans saying, oh, bag on Xbox, or all your PS5 fans, bag on PS5. Okay? I'm going to be completely clear on this, and it's completely honest truth. I'm sorry, but I've heard too much crap about it. There's people who are 30 years old who actually know what they're talking about. It is completely unheard of for what I already knew and confirmed what he was going to do. And that was one of those things where you had to actually either fix what you knew. Yeah, and so it just pisses me off that everyone is saying that. Well, here's the thing. I want to tell you the honest truth. I knew for two reasons, and I said one of the reasons in there, but I didn't want to say the second one because I wanted to wait for Bethesda to say it. And it has just been confirmed. I read an article, and the article said, oh man. Okay. I can't vote. That's weird. It's not even letting me vote. So, oh. Yeah, as I was saying, let's go with what we know. You guys were first told that Xbox was going to buy this. And the first thing I told you guys was that don't be surprised if Xbox screws over Sony with this. And with that being said, you know, I knew from very day one how Microsoft works. This is not Xbox. This is exactly how Microsoft works. And if they feel there's competition, they get butthurt and they buy out companies above them, whoever they're butthurt of, and then they actually buy out these companies to sabotage lack of resources for the other competitor. Which by doing so, they got Bethesda. Now, Bethesda in their own right, I already knew this was going to happen. Bethesda's been a long time fan of Xbox. They've always worked together. And that makes it, you know, oh, he's going to call it. Yep, he called it. So, that being said, Xbox has always, and Microsoft has always done up and did this. Now, they knew that Bethesda couldn't be bought out by Skytech, so they had to buy out the whole company. And they knew if they just went straight after Bethesda, Sony would probably go after them. So the best thing they did was buy out the whole company and then make us believe, and here I quote, we are not going to take over Xbox or PS5. We're not going to do anything with Bethesda, make it seem like we're taking them over and that they're not losing anything else. They have the freedom to work on their own pace and do their own things, and nothing will change. Unfortunately, you should have known that was a bullcrap lie, because the first thing they said was that we'll honor the PS5 deals. Now, by law, if Microsoft has to honor a PS5 deals, and I didn't know, I think a lot of gamers and a lot of people who get involved in all this politics stuff of behind the scenes, they don't really know how companies work. And they don't know the legal laws that go behind it. Whenever you take over a company, let's say I took over Apple. Now, you go into Apple and you decide to buy a contract. You as a person decide to go into Apple and buy a phone and start a contract with them. Okay? Now, I'm coming in to buy over Apple and take Apple over. Let's just say hypothetically. Those contracts that you just had, because you signed it with that company, I now must take on that contract, and I must honor it till the contract's over. I can't raise the price, I can't down the price, I can't change the price under consumer law. Because at the time you made a deal with that company. Even if the company's being sold out, the new company has to honor all new contracts. That is the law. Because otherwise it screws the people that signed them over the way, and they had too many issues going back and fixing all those contracts. It's easier just to take them on and say, you know what, to this in, and then they'll give you a warning what's going to happen next. And after your contract's over, then they'll give you an idea and say, hey, you know what, you're one of the first people we had a contract with. We're just letting you know now, blah, 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 this will change, and you'll have to abide by the new changes. If you don't, then you can have a right to content in the contract when it's over and don't sign for them again. That is the law. So because Bethesda had already made contracts with Sony to do certain things with Sony and announced it publicly that they were going to put it on the PS5 originally, Microsoft had no choice but to accept those contracts. It didn't mean that they were being nice. It didn't mean that they were saving Bethesda. No, they were not saving Bethesda at all. They were saving their own asses, because the truth is being told that you have a company that put so much money hungry first and only realized that the only thing they had to go on to compete with the PS5 this year was the fact that they knew, and they knew politically, that in order to win against PS5 they had to buy out Bethesda and get an IP. They had to buy out the other things and buy out that company. They didn't put $7 billion into a company that they weren't going to get any profit back from or have any political gain over the freaking other companies. And by doing so, they also pushed into GameStop. You are saying they're saving GameStop. No, they're doing what they call smart management. It's where they take it's called big company, bully company, little company. It's when they take the small companies at their weakness. Because let's face it, if Xbox really did it to save Bethesda, they should have done it months ago, years ago, when Bethesda was starting to fall. Okay, they could have bailed them out during 76. Okay, let's just really go into that. If they really were trying to save Bethesda, it wasn't about saving Bethesda. They knew they had IPs, and they knew that you guys wanted it. I am not saying this because I'm a fan of Xbox or a fan of PS5. I am saying this because I despise Microsoft. As much as I have to use them, I despise them. I despise their tactics and their ways of doing things. And it's just not correct. Okay? That being said, Microsoft chose to buy out that, knowing that they would literally, people, stop leaving the fucking game. Thank you. So Microsoft bought out the couple to make sure, the company, to make sure they would have a one-up on Sony and restrict their good games that would make Sony a lot of money on them. Even though Sony has their own IPs, they made a killing off of those games. and from Bethesda. They did. And I mean, you ask how many people were there, and there wasn't. There wasn't a lot of. So, and I get it. We all love Xbox because it's offering us free Game Pass. But let's be honest, if you have a game that's IP, like I said, that is being pushed back to years on, and you had nothing to go with it, and your first plan was to push the IP, and now you have to sell all these things to make it sound like you're saving things? No. Okay, and then what do? They tell GameStop, okay, that we are going to push these things so you guys can give money back if you push our consoles and you push our games. Nothing of that. If they push digital games, not physical games, which GameStop is known for, digital games. By doing that, it's taking away from GameStop. It's telling PS5 that their staff are going to be one-sided. And I'm sorry to say this. There's a lot of reasons why I know how this is going to go. And I'm just going to back out of this for a little bit because this was, yeah. I hate to say this, and I hate to say it with all my passion. We have a company that treats every little company like bullies, and they wait until they're at the worst limits, and they come in and bail them out, and they treat it as a bailout out, and everybody else gets so hyped up. It's like when PewDiePie decides to do something, you guys all just run to PewDiePie. It's when Logan Paul decided to go to YouTube for one day, and everybody just started running to Logan Paul to the point where he's running around the campus, and the whole YouTube campus, and he gets kicked out from YouTubeCon. This is pathetic. You guys are talking about, oh yeah, well, we're just fanboys. No. No one's a fanboy of this. Somebody's seen it already past to happen. Everybody who from PS5 would have known that already those IPs in it. Yeah, you guys won the Grand Prix. That's all you can really say. Congratulations. But what you should be worried about, if Xbox is really claiming that they're all for all consoles, why would they only introduce, oh yeah, we're focused on our computer consoles. We're all consoles. Computer. Every phones, and also Xbox itself, console. And we have no rivalry. We believe it should be all shared on all consoles. We should believe it in all that. All that pitching that they've done when they made cross-play enable for Activision, and so did Sony. All these little talks that they try to do to try to say, oh yeah, we're going to go for all consoles. And little do they know, they tossed Sony aside. If they were for all consoles, it would have been for all consoles. We have 6 of major games that Bethesda came out with before Xbox existed. Yes, they worked with Xbox closely for years. Sony had issues with Bethesda sometimes. I understand that. But I am not going to tell you that Bethesda is 100% okay with taking over and losing about 50% of the profits of what they would have had if they would have stuck with Sony as well. It's okay to make a contract with them. But to buy out their company is already telling you at that moment that they were not going to have it. And yes, congratulations, Xbox. But you have a one-up in the game. That's fine. But Sony didn't have to do that. Sony didn't have to do that to get where they're at. Yeah, they backstabbed Nintendo a little bit. They went into disk drive before anybody else did. But that was evolving. They evolved themselves. They didn't go out and look for the same company that Nintendo had and took it from them. They also worked together. And most of the times, most of those companies didn't just stick to one console anyway. They were so worried about putting on every console, they wanted it every console in every house. That was what the time of the framing was. It wasn't like what Xbox just freaking did. It's, as I said, I repeat it over again. It's Bill Gates doing the exact same thing to Apple in the early 2000s. Bill Gates does exactly to Apple in the early 2000s. The only downfall is that they didn't run him down first. They just waited to run it down. That's the only difference. Bill Gates purposely put Apple down, and then had to realize he made the worst mistake of his life because he had no competition, and then all of a sudden, he bails Apple out with the freaking hefty contract. And he goes live, and the first thing everybody does is boo at him because he was shady for that. And he learned from his mistake. The fact that their own CEOs now, that run Microsoft besides him, their own, and I'm going to tell you, investors that are still with the company that were beyond him anyway, have messed up the consoles and generations for future come. If Sony wanted their own IPs, Sony would go out and find their own IPs and then bring them to Sony. They didn't take them from somebody else. Okay? And any of the IPs that they have now have been adapted over the years because either Sega has been chopped down or something happened to Sega. And they had to make contracts to survive. And that's how they worked. But this had nothing to do with bailing out Bethesda. Come on. Fallout 76 is the worst game they had in centuries. Every other game they've had since then, it's been a big hit. One of the biggest. And yes, Xbox needed to increase their library. But see, here's the thing. Xbox is not a console for fans. Xbox is about power, what we have best, and we have the best console ever. They're all about that. Whatever they can say themselves to make themselves sound better and make you guys believe they're better than the next console. And when that comes down to it, the whole UI thing, the 1080 thing, yeah, that's part of it. But I wouldn't be surprised if later on they cannot keep up their upgrades for their games. I wouldn't be surprised if their games don't come in the full force that they expected they're going to go to. And there's a lot of problems with that because they don't put the love and care for their fans. They buy out their fans. The only time you make something free, the only time you make something almost completely free, is when you're trying to buy out your fans to produce your product. And that is the one thing in business 101 that they tell you not to do. It is one of those things that, you know, I'm just going to go to camera and maybe switch up here. Let me see. Sorry guys, I'm going to go up here and probably switch my camera to, you know, full screen because, yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things that, and I know you guys ain't watching right now, and I'm okay with that. If this video goes up, it's gonna go up with you guys. So, and that being said, you know, I'm trying to get this thing to work. Hopefully it does. We'll see. Yep, there we go. Oopsies. We'll close that out and maybe come over here and I'll be able to see you guys. And there we go. It's not that I'm saying that Xbox doesn't deserve to have their own IPs. What I'm saying is if they deserved it, if they were to do it right, they should have created it like they created Halo. They should have created another game like they did Halo. Sony goes out of their way to hire devs to create their own games, especially exclusive for that console. And they get out of that and they could have done it. Xbox Studios has plenty of devs in there that could have created a game that made it solely for them. And they could have easily pushed it. But they had nothing to go on. They challenged Sony back in 4 years ago, since the last 2 or 3 years ago, I think, since we had the Xbox One X or One X. 3 or 4 years ago, they challenged Sony to say, you know what, we're gonna make you do better by bringing out our own console. Sony responded, and it wound up being one of the best things Sony has ever done, and it wiped the floor with them. Believe it or not, even though it just wiped the floor with them. Look at all the things right now. As we were to go by what they have right now, and Sony were to kind of tweak, the only thing they have really is that they're backwards compatible. Yes, they need to make their Game Boy library for that, but come on, man. Like, you don't need to say you had to buy out another company just to push your product. They got scared because they're used to doing business like this. If my quality ain't that great, we're going to buy those customers. And if they could buy you guys, they will. So pretty much anybody who is saying that Xbox is the biggest generation console in the world is pretty much a sellout, because all you're saying is that you're getting an Xbox for a Game Pass that is practically the cheapest thing they could ever make, and now they're offering it for what they call for free, almost exactly near free, and none of the console, what it says it can do, is actually showing it can do. The quick zoom, that's great. I am mad that was a very good feat. But you're saying that you have 12 teraflops in your freaking hard in this console, and yet you could barely even push a game to fast 12 something or 4K 60 frames per second native on some of your most recent games. Come on, guys. Let's look at it like that. And to be fair, Sony has their little problems too. I mean, with the whole memory thing, Sony, come on, man. You should have known better than that. We're in 2000 something. You should have known that already consoles alone that we have enough space for anyway is more than enough. And it sounds like you're just trying to make more money on the memories than you are on the freaking console. And I get that. I get that. Maybe you aren't trying to make a profit on the memory, and that's your push. But come on. At least you could have put a terabyte already in there. And if you knew that you were going to put a terabyte, and you knew that your servers were going to take at least like almost 400 gigs from a terabyte, or 200 or 300, almost 4, then you should have, or oh no, I would say almost 2. My bad, almost 2. Then you should have put the extra to make those gigs extra on top. You should have put a $1,500 hard drive in there, standard, so we can at least have 1,000 to get. You gotta think, you want us to transfer all our games over to PS5, and yet you can't put a regular hard drive in there that beats that? That is where you guys messed up. I'm not saying the whole other hard drive McKay thing is a great idea. It's one of the greatest ideas. I love it. But that way you know your hard drive's in there. If you want to switch it out, you still can. Things like that. But what I'm saying is that you have multiple ways of making sure we could have got all this at that chaos. And if you knew your games were going to be 50 to 30 gigs alone per game for the top tier games, all your A-listers, you should have put them on a better gear. And I'm going to get on the Sony for that, because that is not okay. But, and this may sound like a rant to you, but let's be honest. I'm just covering what you guys have covered in the last week. The last week, or the last 2 weeks since I came on here, was I said it myself. You guys are really wrong if you believe that Microsoft is going to sit there and say a $7 billion company and not give anything to Sony. This was a plan they already had planned out before they even bought Bethesda. And Bethesda is kissing ass right now because they just got all their money. Deal's not done, but I would say this, Bethesda. You need to realize what they just did. And if you want this your company to succeed, you would do the right thing by signing a contract and making sure it's in there that you do not stop. They don't have control over who goes, what games go to where. And Xbox has that deal, run from the money. Money is not always worth it. You want to make it by honest living. Gamers want that. Gamers have always wanted the honest and the most realish crap. Whenever it came to PC, whenever it came to mobile gaming, whenever it came to anywhere. All we really wanted and what we only focused on was that if you were going to take care of us, we shouldn't have to go buy another $600 console that can't even do half of what the PS5 to do just to play your games. But that's sorry, we can't. That's bullcrap. The PS5 would have done really well with you guys. And you guys know that. I think, honestly, you're kissing butt. In the letter that you said, and I quote, I'm really happy to be with, I'm just paraphrasing what he said. But the owner of Bethesda came out and said, I'm really happy to be with you guys. It was a great honor to be with you guys. I've always worked with Xbox, and I've always had an honor to be with Xbox. I think our contract will go well, and our business will go further, and we're hoping to continue to evolve, and you guys to evolve with us. But he did say in his thing that he's always been a fan of Xbox. And see, that's where your personal feelings can't get involved with business. If I were to base this on business, and that's what I'm really basing my rant on. If you're going to take this from anything, take it from a business level. 1, you don't allow your personal feelings to get involved with your business. You make business decisions that have the future of your company based on non-personal feelings, on educated facts. Most of these people, I played Skyrim on PS5 or PS4. I played it on the PS3. I played some of your greatest games on the PlayStation. You guys have worked a lot of games with Xbox. Does that mean that because you're a fan, that's going to make you the most best money? You have 2 consoles right now. And the best for any game developers besides IPs that have already been existed in as IPs. If you're a new game developer coming into those consoles, or if you're an existing one that has never had a real significant IP for either console, or you're not bought out by Sony or Xbox, you're neutral, it's the best to be neutral. Because as this new technology comes out, we're going to see a lot how, right now, it's so much new technology that either Sony or Xbox can crash in the next year or so, depending on what's going on. We have not enough data, even now, that the Xbox or the Sony will make it past 2021. All this is hype. And when you make a business deal on a hype, you made it bad. You should have waited. Because even if you did wait, you would at least know if your IPs are not going to be ran by a motherfucking hungry company and then shove you out. They didn't want to save you. They wanted your shit. That's the reality of it. They know how much it reaches the gamers, and they want your crap just to move over. And you know what? Anybody can make a video about this and about me. Go ahead. But in the years that I've came to know from the older games consoles, is that they had one respect for each other. And Nintendo, you already knew you were always going to get Nintendo games based on Nintendo. Okay? That's reality. I think Final Fantasy, you always knew you were going to get them for Final Fantasy. It was about having their own IPs. They came out with their own IPs to combat other IPs. They didn't buy IPs for... No one bought Zelda. No one bought Mario. No one tried to buy anything. They wanted them. Oh, of course they wanted them. No one bought those things. Okay? Those all came later after people's creative minds for your company, for that company at the time, came up with those ideas to make those things come. And if you either made it or you failed it. You didn't buy someone else's work and then own the rights to it and then push it like you're going to make all new things happen and that you're going to have Xbox now has reason why you made it. No. Bethesda could have made it without Xbox. Let's be real. Do the numbers. Do the math. Xbox could have made it without Bethesda, and Bethesda could have easily made it without Xbox. Okay? But Xbox did what they call the scare tactic, where they get scared, their investors get scared, and they say, you know what, we're not going to go through with this Xbox unless you give me IPs. And the only way they could have possibly had that, because nobody else would have gone on board with them. Look, if a company has to buy IPs from a higher up, that means no other company wants them. That means their business tactics are crap, and they know that. And they worked, and they fouled Bethesda at the worst. And they used the fear for Bethesda to win a contract out of fear. And that's why they went into business together. Because they made him believe he was going to make it. And I guarantee that's what Phil Spencer said to him. He says, if you get on this board with us, we will make you we will make you this as famous as Xbox itself. We will bring you back. Because you won't make it without us. And if you look at the history of how much those games are worth, they make plenty. And with the newer consoles coming out, they would have made way more. All they had to do was make the games for both consoles. And yeah, if they wanted to make an IP strictly for them, that I understand that. That would have been awesome. If Phil Spencer was being as honest as he was, he could have came up to Xbox and said, you know what, we're not going to buy out the company above you. We're going to make you a contract. And if we do buy your company above you, we're going to allow you to be your own company. And we're going to make a contract, like a year contract like they did with GameStop. Because GameStop was no fool. They weren't going to sell their company to Xbox, and I guarantee that's what Xbox wanted. And that's what Xbox is trying to do right now. They're going to start out by paying, okay, we're going to help you. And then when they make enough stocks, and GameStop makes enough, they're going to say, well, we bailed you out, we're now going to want the rights to you. And then they're going to pressure them out. It's going to take a while, but I guarantee it. And today is the date that you can claim it on. I will happily tell you. But in all honesty, you guys have really no idea what Microsoft does. All these people coming out on YouTube saying, fanboys this, fanboy us. This is not about fanboys anymore. This is about one company trying to monopolize. Google just got caught by the FBI for monopolizing. They've been monopolizing their search engines. They've been trying to push it, and Google's been trying to come out and say they're neutral. They're in investigation right now. What Xbox is trying to do is monopolize the market to push their product. And the worst thing that's going to happen is going to make it harder for Sony to keep being Sony, and then the prices of the consoles and the games are going to go up. And as all gamers, the one things we don't want. I'm going to name the things we don't want. We don't want games restricted to us. We are in a world where we believe those games should go away. And if you believe that you need to be IP'd, then great. Okay, I'm not knocking you. There's some things that should stick to the IPs for Sony. And if they were to hand it over to somebody else, it would get messed up. I'm telling you that right now. Just like if Mario were to get released to somebody else other than Nintendo, Mario would be shit. I'm sorry. It would ruin Mario. Okay? Let's just be real there. And if someone can evolve that, great. But they have devs to evolve that. They don't need to have someone else's company come in and do that. We don't want higher games. We don't want our IPs taken away. We don't want to be restricted to one console. And I'm going to say that as a fan of PlayStation and Xbox. Either one. No matter which one I like, more or less. Everybody's starting to like both consoles. Okay? Because both consoles had something great to offer. And that's true. Okay, I get it. In the last 4 years, Xbox has been trailing in the graphics. And everybody's been out of shape and become what they call the train wreck. And you know when, let's say you're a Raiders fan for like 5 years. And next thing you know, the Chiefs are starting to win more and more, and the Raiders are losing. You're going to go back to the Chiefs. Bagwagon, okay? That's pretty much what's happened to the gaming market. It's bagwagging sales. It's where all of a sudden one console does better, we all go to that console. I think, honestly, guys, if you're truthful to yourselves and you're truthful to this, you'll understand what I'm trying to say. And you can hate me for all your life. But let's be real. Okay? I'm not sugarcoating this. We don't want that. Okay? Consoles. We love our consoles for what they offered. No matter how crappy it was, we always loved our consoles for how much they were. Whether they were on PC, whether they were not the newest console, we loved them for what they were. Because they had something to offer in there that was worth our while. And if we were to strip away the console wars, we were to strip away all the stuff that Phil Spencer said, and we actually focus on just the business itself, if Xbox and PlayStation were truly about their customers, this would not happen. PlayStation do care about their customers. That's why they're listening. When it comes to China, I don't know why. Maybe, or Japan, maybe they're having new rules. I don't know. We don't know about this. Maybe they couldn't make two different sets of controllers. Maybe they were only limited because of the tariffs right now. Because US has made it very hard for anything. But we do know that they've always listened to their fans. And they've made mistakes. And any console ownership, any business is going to make mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes as a business owner. And it's my job to fix it and rectify it, just like they do. But it's funny how we just jump on every little mistake they do. Come on, guys. They're making a new console that's beyond even your minds. And yet, you're bagging on them. So, let's be honest. We all want good consoles. We all want safe communities. We all want all these things that they're offering right now. And if devs, I'm talking strictly to devs now. The owners of dev companies, dev studios, no matter what studio you're in, if you really cared about the community for what you're making your games for, you would make games for all consoles. Except for the ones that have already been in history for IPs. I'm not telling Xbox to give up their Halo. I'm not telling Sony to give up Final Fantasy. Or whatever ones they have. Like Doom or... Not Doom, it's Demon Souls. Any of those real IPs are like Spider-Man. Okay? I'm not saying that. What I'm saying that's great for pushing out the new consoles and have them. But later on, make them available for the other console. You would make more sales that way. And the less you have to worry about cost. And it's funny how Phil Spencer just lied to all y'all. And you're still buying by him. You've had 4 things wrong with this console that they've came out with. Maybe 3, I may be wrong. 1, the overheating issue. 2, the graphics for the freaking UI was just horrible. And yeah, you could say, oh, well, who cares about that? No. If it's all about presentation. If your presentation ain't right, we already know what you're going to treat your games at. And what the rest of the console's going to do. If your console can't handle a high resolution for your own UI, and it can't, how much do you think it's not going to handle? And you're saying you're the best console in the world and most powerful? Okay, I'm only basing this based on the facts of what Xbox has said. You're not the most powerful console in the world. If you can't manage your OUI at the highest rev and still give quality out games at highest UREV, I'm sorry. But you are looking at a console that is not the most powerful in the world because Sony just wiped the floor with you. They gave you a great UI that can push the resolution. They gave you great games that can already show they can push resolution. They even opened it up for share and creators. They spoke to the content creators. They asked what we wanted and they fixed it to that way. They even gave you guys chances to even become content creators on there. More better than what Microsoft has done with Mixer. Okay? Xbox is hurting. It's been hurting since the loss of Mixer, since the loss of freaking... Let's be real. They lost Mixer. The minute they lost Mixer, that shows you already that they were going downhill. Microsoft is not the type to lose anything unless something bad is happening. They pushed the consoles to make it seem like they were the best consoles in the world, and the only focus on and how they sell their sales taxes is not the fact that they care as much as they claim they say they do. They only Microsoft, I'm not talking about Xbox, Microsoft itself only cares about the sales and in-sales profit. So, how this works, and I think everybody misses this key factor. Let's say we launch a game. Their first initial sales depends on that game. Depends on what they're going to have, their investors, and all that. After all that's done, their investors get their money back already. They've already got their cuts. Everyone's out. Everything else is just chump change. They're going to let the game go to waste. Okay? You guys get so hyped up on that one game, and you guys go out and buy it. And they don't even care about the game afterwards. That is how they do their sales. That's because every company does it like that. They build up hype for certain games, enough to get them what they need. Okay? And then when that hits that quota, as long as they hit that quota, their stocks are fine. They now just got invested in stocks. They've now gotten their company back on, and that's how they work. It's a crappy practice. It's been a crappy practice since the 1980s and the 1970s. Not just from consoles, but from Microsoft, but from other companies that have now, they don't exist no more because they've done those crappy practices. And so when it comes down to now into 2020, where consumers like us and gamers who really want the companies to care about what we think and want the companies to do the right thing, right? Then they lost because all they know is how to push things to make them better or more powerful or more extravagant. And they put so much hype in that, the quality when you get it is worse. It's why Apple's quality is way higher than Intel's or Microsoft. Yeah, your PC can be adaptable in here, and that's great, and Apple is a bitch for that. I'm going to tell you that right now. But you can't lie that their studio and the way they have their quality is a lot better. And the way they make sure that nothing happens software-wise. Now, it's starting to happen now, but back then it wasn't. They were very particular. Microsoft has been a shady business from the very beginning. And that's why I'm telling you what I said the other time in the last video, what I said and why I said it. It wasn't because I was an Xbox fan. It wasn't because I hate Apple or Microsoft. I hate them both because they both do shitty shit. They both learn from each other, and now they're both doing it. One way or another. Their investors are now doing it. And, if you really think that Xbox is claiming as a gaming console, would have been better off just branching off from Microsoft and making their own brand called Xbox without Microsoft. Because that would have shown that Xbox is solely neutral to the same tactics they are. It's really sickening to see all these people bagging on other people because they don't know jack crap besides what articles tell them and besides what it is, and they forget the history of what the company has been doing for years on. And I'm sick and tired of the gaming attacking each other because they don't know the facts. You look at the history of how Microsoft works, and this is what does it. You look at how Sony works, and that's why they do the things they do. It is not because of Xbox versus PS5. It's not because they care about the customers. Sony cares. They've always have. But they just burn their own people. So, do we know? No, maybe. Maybe now they're changing their things. We don't know why that's happening. So I'm not going to put them under the bus for that. But what I will do is call it out for some of the things that they could have done and fixed. And who knows? They may be coming up with a Pro later and that Pro version will have a better upgrade. They did say that they were trying to target enough lower people so people would get a console in everybody's house, and that is happening with GameStop. Actually, when I went to GameStop, word from up above is that even if you did do a pre-order for any console, you can get one of each console during pre-order. On launch day, you will not be able to get any of those consoles besides the one you pre-ordered and you paid them off. You could not buy extra consoles on launch day. They are making sure everybody in the house gets at least one. And that's what they're going with. Because I think right now, and, you know, I think it was wise to wait to see the price. Because if we were to go any higher on these consoles, yeah, we would have paid them. But COVID would have killed us. Okay? So, this was a really effective way for people during COVID right now who want to get the next gen console can still get the next gen console, and no matter what, that's where it's coming out. Now I don't know if that's the same practice through Walmart or this, but reality is Sony does have control over everything, and so does Microsoft. They do tell the stores and retailers what they can and can't do when it comes to the consoles, and some of the stores don't listen. That's just reality. And it doesn't matter what company it is. But I will say this. It's really hard for someone to say, and you came to me and said, Microsoft wants to buy out Bethesda. Okay, now Microsoft wants to buy out GameStop. And make it seem like, hey, we're going to help you. But in return, we're going to give you sales on all this, and you're going to get so much sales off. Which now they know how. What is GameStop known for? They have to push, they make their employees push certain brands first based on popularity or based on their sales or based on their investors. Now that Microsoft's in the picture, I would see a lot more Xbox sales being pushed and deals for Xbox at GameStop you're not going to see for the PS4 guys. And I'm sorry, guys, but that's really what's going to happen. And I hope that certain stores will realize that that's not okay and they'll keep it neutral, regardless what their corporate says. Because some do stand against that bullcrap. They already do. They don't believe in it. And if you have a store that you guys know that won't, let me know in the links below. Any day, let me know your thoughts. Here, I'm just giving you guys the facts. I'm not giving you guys anything less. I'm giving you my history with them, with both companies, all three companies. And there's a lot of good come from both consoles. There is. I'm not going to say, I have both consoles pre-ordered anyway. Because I like some of the games on the Xbox, and I love some of the games on this. And I was really happy about the Halo thing. I really was. And then it just broke my heart that it didn't come out. But doesn't mean that there's not a lot of other games that I miss playing from my old Xboxes all the way back from 360 or the first Xbox. And I would love to still go do that. So, yes. It gives me that freedom. And yeah, I'm an Ultimate subscriber, so I've been one for a while. So don't even go there. But the real thing that I hate to say, and I really hate to say this, is that if these companies really cared, and I think Sony does a little bit better job than Xbox does when it comes to the care of their customers. They do try to listen, and it's hard. At the end of the day, they do have a business to run, and I get that. But this was not something they did to save out Bethesda. Skytech had plenty of money to bail out Bethesda if they wanted to. Or whatever they called the company that they bought. Okay? Bethesda didn't need Microsoft. And GameStop, yeah, they needed help with computers and things like that. But if they were really trying to help them, they wouldn't try to push their own sales on their Xbox. Now, good things though. Because Xbox did one thing that I'm very proud of them for. And this, it's shady, but it's also pretty decent. So, we all live in 2020, and not everybody can afford an Xbox or the nearest console. And a lot of the consoles they were going to give out were the S's, and most people couldn't get their hands on the X. Now you can go to GameStop. Now, what I've heard, and this is directly from one of their GMs, I will not say the store, but there will be an app that allows you to pre-order the Xbox. And how it works, and I'm going to walk you through this very slowly because I want to make sure you guys get this correct. There's a couple ways you can do it. There's like 3 or 4 ways to do it. Okay? But the easiest way, and I think the easiest way if you want to get in a store, is go on this app, put your information. They'll give you what they call a pre-authorized amount that you can use towards your Xbox. And I don't know if that means they're just going to let you pay part of it off in the meantime, or you still have to put money down for the rest of it. You may have to put like a certain amount of down, but this knocks down the full price. Okay? So you get that app, you go on the app, it'll give you a code, kind of like a credit card number. It's going to be a digital number though. It's not going to be for anything else. It's going to be like an old, your own credit card number after you give you an amount. You walk into the GameStop, and on launch day, or on, I think it's going to be on launch day, or you go into pre-order when it's a pre-order available, you can go ahead and put that money down for that pre-order for the Xbox One S or One X, depending on which one you're signing up for. Based on the one you're signing up for, I'm guessing it's going to determine who can do it based on your credit. And then the company gets paid by the creditor's company. So you're paying that credit card company separately. Microsoft is not taking the blame for it. I don't think even in store, I don't think you can pay in store at that moment for what you owe that credit that they pre-authorized you for. So this is all done, and they did it. I found out through GM because they were doing a training on it, and they told us they happened to do a training. GM happened to walk in there, and I was trying to figure out if I can switch my console that I pre-ordered to a monthly console. That way I'm not profiting out $500 and $500 here. I can cost out so much and a little bit, still get all my stuff and make it $500 cheaper. And then maybe over the months I can just, cost out and pay it off. And I felt that was for really fit for me for a few reasons. I have kids. I also have to upgrade my computer. And this would give me enough time to spread out my money instead of spending all my money at once. But I have, and I know this is going to be a long video. I know this is very long, me talking. But that is how they're doing it. That is one way how they're doing it. Now, I don't know how much of that, I know that is from a GM. From my store. I don't know how they're doing it in every store. That is from a district manager from my store for that store. So that means he tells all the ones in my area. But this makes it, and I'm glad that Xbox decided to do this because not everybody right now, especially right now, Christmas coming up. I don't even know if I have money for the kids' Christmas. After I do all this, and I need to do this for the channel too. So, we wanted to get one for the girls, and we don't know if we can now. So, we don't know. But we're doing our best. I'm going to definitely put my kids first before me, but, we don't know how Christmas is going to be this year. And I think that's on everybody's mind. They got kids who've been dreaming of their first Christmas, or, their birthdays were born on that day. And coming up for this, it's really tough. So, in fact, that Xbox took the time to make that happen, great. Now, I'm praying Sony will kind of work that out too. I know they're a little late on things, but we'll see. Yeah, so, but if, okay, and the GM told me this. Even if you get the credit for the pre-order, don't cancel your pre-order. He said that if you have a pre-order open, don't cancel your pre-order for the Xbox. Go ahead and just keep the code. When it comes to launch day or the fact that they launch, give them that code and pay off with that code. Or that number that they're going to give you. It's going to be a credit card number. So you don't have to delete your pre-order. So you can totally do this on the app. Now, I don't know when this app is available. We haven't got announced yet. and I'm waiting word back because I'm supposed to be able to do this. When they find out, we find out. So I guess it's a certain app. I don't know how it works, but yeah, go ahead and apply and figure it out. Now, if anybody has any more information, maybe they have more information than me, please do sit in the comments below, and everybody, make sure it's backed up. Make sure you have reasonable inference. And then I will cover it and look into it as well. But yeah, please put those links below so I can look into them. Just want to be sure that we have it. If you have access to the GameStop, stuff, or if you're an employee, if you can give that information, that'd be awesome. Because the more we know, the more people can get a chance to get a PS5 or Xbox this year. And, I know a lot of times this year we could have saved our money, and we did, and then next thing you know, we spent it because we had to spend it on something, and then we didn't put it where we could have put it. So, yeah. So that everybody knows, so they're not have to always pay out the whole $500. And I think for most of us, we didn't get that information until after the fact. So if you have a Xbox console pre-ordered, get on that. Try to find that app. Talk to Xbox if you have to. Maybe call them. They may know. They may know how they're doing it. I would suggest that too. Call Xbox. Be sure. Because, and make sure your store's on the same page. Make sure if you did do the pre-order in GameStop, make sure that store's on the same page. Now, I don't know how it's going to work with Best Buy and Walmart. I don't know how that's going to work with Best Buy and Walmart or Target or any of those other retailers. I just know how it's working with GameStop. So, specifically at my district. So, yes. That will be it. Thank you guys so much for listening to me. I know this was a long rant. But I wanted to make it very clear that you guys didn't have to believe that Xbox was that. And if you're out there to buy the Xbox because you believe it's powerful and you come home and you realize it's not, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry in advance. And I'm going to say I'm sorry for Microsoft. That's how low I'm going to go. I'm going to say sorry for Microsoft. Because I know they won't. And if they do, it's a chump kid. Sorry, Mark. Because they don't really care. Once they get their initial sales, they're out. That's how they do it. That's how they've always done it. They don't care about the after effect. Because you've already bought them in. The only way they start to care if every box went back and got returned from them. Or nobody picked up pre-orders on that day and said you canceled all your pre-orders. So yeah, that's the only way they'll realize their mistake. But it's really shady practice. It wasn't done properly. I mean, I know, but if you don't buy Xbox, you won't be able to support Bethesda, and they knew that too. So, I mean, but yeah, Bethesda really, they didn't do it as they needed it. They did it because they wanted to, and he was a longtime fan. And that's really what it was. It was in-house dealings that allowed it to be. And I'm going to call Bethesda out on it. And they want to prove me wrong? Go ahead. Demonetize this channel. Demonetize this video. Go ahead. Try to come out. Make fun of me. Say something. I dare you to actually, as an owner of Bethesda, to reach out to me and explain to me how undumbified you can make me feel. Or make me say that you didn't do this because you already had ones in with Xbox when it was clearly in your article written by somebody in an article that you came out with saying that you've been a long-time fan of Xbox and that you didn't do it because you were particular to one and that your business decision was based on your friendship or your fan base, your fanship to the console compared to what was actually the fan base to the real. Because if you look at that, there's more people playing if you look at how many people actually play Bethesda games, it is not on the Xbox. It is on the PS5 or PS4. And it actually was always like that. The only difference was the Xbox came out with better graphics. And you believe that they're going to come out with better graphics this year? No. They weren't planning on making a console this year. They thought their last console was the most powerful console ever, and they would still beat their future console. That is what they quoted. They even quoted that would still beat the future console that Sony came out with. And look what happened. Sony came out with the console. They announced what they were going to do, and Xbox comes out and says, we're going to make this box. That overheats, burns people's hands, probably burns your memory, your $1,000 or $100 or $200 freaking memory card, and you can't get any of your games back because you don't own the rights to your games. The computer does. Microsoft does. You didn't buy your games. You're renting them. If you're real collectors, if you're real gamers, gamers know this. They play games, they buy the games, they invest in those games for a reason. Because it gives the studios the money that made it. It also gives a little bit of that profit to the consoles. Or whatever platform they choose to do. And they console these things because they want to have a history of how many games they did. And it's an ego boost thing. It's been one for years. Let's not deny it. So, yes. Real gamers buy their games. They beat them, they play them, and they hold on to them. Because they know the value of those games. And they know what happens when those games don't come out no more. And trust me, if I didn't have to move so many times because of COVID or because of low income, I would have had all my consoles here. I had every console generation in my life. I worked at a game store called Gamer Worlds out in Stockton, California. And I sold all the way from Atari to newer generation consoles. I had every console in my house at least once in my lifetime. I pushed the limits on those consoles. And I played them like I was playing any other console. I didn't play them because they were Xbox. I didn't play them because they were PS5. I played them because they were the only consoles I had at the time, and I loved them. And I loved games from both consoles. And the PS5, Sony, and let's get this straight. Understand that the reason why the PS5 can't be fully backwards compatible is because during those times when the PS5 was coming, PS1 came out, and the PS2, a lot of those dev companies, a lot of those studios don't exist anymore. 2, they don't own the rights to those games. They were relying a lot on third parties at the time. Unlike Xbox, who has more recent games with them, okay, and kept all those contracts, and pretty much said, if you're going to go under, we're going to buy them from you. They actually bought those game companies from them, or they're still working with the same game companies that once were, is the reason why they can fully go compatible. And that was a smart business decision. They thought about the future. And that was smart for Xbox. If Sony could have done the same thing, they would have. But you also got to remember, Sony is not located in the US. Sony is located in Japan. Which means contracts and certain things were held up legally differently at that time. Through the certain presidents and certain congressmen and things like that. Unlike Xbox, who is branded here, have all those accesses to those games. Because it's easier to hold on those contracts and work with those contracts even now. So, we're not limited to what we can get and get our hands on from other countries. We're limited to what the other countries can get our hands on from here. And that is the real reason why PS5 can't be fully compatible to backwards compatible to all the way to PS1. And it sucks, I know, but this is why gamers collect the original PS1 games. This is why we spent so much money on those consoles and keep them up here. This is why we go dig at grocery stores and garage sales, so we can plug those things in. And this is why they come up with adapters, so they know we can still get the experience we once had, that we grew up and enjoy with. And that is the one thing. The reason why Nintendo can go all the way back from fucking decades is because Nintendo owns all the rights to their games. And if they had third parties, they had contracts that seal those third parties to make sure they can go back if they want to. And if they can't, well, then that's tough luck. But that's the gaming world. That is exactly what has always been and always will be. And it will always be that gaming world. Never less. It sucks to hear. No fanboy wants to hear it. Nobody wants to recognize it. Nobody wants to dare talk about it. But if Sony had access to all those games, they would have done it. Let's be real. Because they have more hit games from PS1 all the way more better than Xbox ever did. It's not because they didn't have the technology. That's not it. It's because they never had the contracts. They don't own those games. And they would be in a big ass lawsuit if they did. Guys, understand the legal sides of everything before you make claims why they can't do things. Why a console can't do things and why this console can't do things. Look up what the legal laws were. Look up what legal contracts they had. You have to look into the companies itself and say, okay, this contract, this studio, this studio. And if they want to make a revised version for which one they had, they still had to get rights for it. And that's why you get to see some of those games that you once cherished all the way, like Kingdom Hearts, be revised. Because those devs still worked and were still alive and still around. But I'm going to tell you right now, after 20, 30 years, you may not have Kingdom Hearts anymore on the PS5. Because those contracts will be over. Or the company may go under. Or that's what happened to a lot of companies. Early from the 90s to the 2000s, when the Xbox 360 came out, a lot of the companies just died out. There was too much competition, and a lot of those companies that Sony were holding on, they had to let them go to make the better console. They had to let them go. They couldn't afford to keep them and the consoles better at the same time. And that was a downfall. The reason why Xbox is so successful about having all that money is because Microsoft doesn't really need the Xbox. Never has. Microsoft has so much money in their PCs and that they make triple off of what they make the Xbox every year. And they make triple off their PC games. More than they make off of it because everybody's buying PCs still. Sony don't have that. Sony has their TVs. And it's merely maybe 1 or 2 years that you'll upgrade your TV. 1 to 3 years that you'll upgrade your TV. People are always buying Intel every year. Twice or 3 times a year, they're buying Intel. They're always buying graphics cards. They're always buying new motherboards. They're always buying new cases and computers. They're constantly building computers. There's so much money into that their Xbox can survive on their own without even Xbox being existed. They got in this to make competition to Sony because they wanted to be a part of the competition. And they are going to try to work with Nintendo. I hope Nintendo seals up so well that they don't do that shit what they did with Bethesda. That's bullcrap. They don't even have I don't even feel like they should have a right to even touch Nintendo. And Nintendo, if you're hearing this, you should believe every word I'm saying right now. Look at their history. Go into their history. Don't touch them. Don't deal with them. You don't need them. If Sony has a great online service, Sony can still push online service. And yeah, they're pushing online too. And they're using Xbox. And they're pretty backing off of Xbox to broadband their services. But come on. Don't give them the power to let them have their games on there. No one needs their Xbox games on the Nintendo. Nintendo, dude, you have had great games that are constantly on the Nintendo all the time. And people support it. And you got so much of a fan base that goes all the way back for 30 and 40 years. That trumps any other console out here. You don't need Microsoft to bail you out or to help you. Do it on your own. Make your own version of Game Pass. You already have the Nintendo Store. Expand that. Keep expanding that. Keep expanding that. People still love those games and people still play them. The Switch does numbers. Even no matter what you come up with, Nintendo, no one sale in the history of sales besides maybe 20, 30 years ago. But since then, your sales have always been high. Because Nintendo, you've always put love and care in your consoles. And you care about the community you have. And if you're asking for Xbox to go on the Switch, you're not fanboys of freaking Nintendo. Sell your Nintendo Switch. Go get a fucking Xbox. Ask Xbox to make a freaking portable console. If that's what it's going to take, go get a freaking Android phone and play on your freaking Android phone. Go do that. Because that's exactly what you're going to get. You don't need Xbox Pass on fucking Switch. I'm sorry. You don't need it. We don't need it. We don't want it. And I'm speaking for more myself and probably most of those gamers out there that said, fuck that. And those ones know who they are. If they want to call me out, great. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. But I know for a fact there's a little bit more people out there that would say, Xbox coming to Game Pass? No. Switch, you have your own thing. And Nintendo, you've always had your own thing and it's what's worked for you. Don't go into the fucking hype. Don't get caught up into everybody else. Don't listen to Switch. Because you know what? You can get those games. You know what? Ask them to put it on there. But don't ask them to put the whole freaking Game Pass on your console. No. Make a cartridge and do what you do with your third parties. Put it on your thing and rig it up. Make it so the sales go to you, not Xbox. They're not paying you for those games to be on there. You're not getting any money from any of those games going on the Switch. And if they say you do, you're not. You're not at all. It's not worth it. If Xbox was really going to help you out, they would let you have Ori and let you put it on the Switch. Without having to put their whole Game Pass on there. They're trying to monopolize the market. And don't let that be fooled. I mean, I speak Japanese and I wish I did. Because this would be so obvious right now. It went from Bill Gates to screwing over Apple. To Phil Spencer screwing over Bethesda. And then jumping into GameStop. They're monopolizing the market. And they're going to get in a monopoly. And it's going to be a lawsuit. And anybody cut underneath their branch, it's going to get fucking sued. That's just how it's going to be. A monopoly is when you start pushing your own shit into every other place that may or may sell or have competition with your stuff. And overpopulating it to where the point where your guys' stuff don't get pushed. They're looking for bailouts. Xbox is dying. That's it. They won't make it another year. Unless they do what? Buy out Bethesda. Push their consoles and hope that they get a high rating. Into the freaking thing. It's kind of like politics. I hate to say this. It's like the politics. It's... don't you always notice when the politics start to end, honey? Don't you ever always notice when the politics start to end, right? When it starts to get this, it's kind of like what they did with Silva and Stockton, and kind of like what they're doing with Joe Biden now. All the dirt comes up right at the end, right before election time, right before all that hype they built up, how great they were, and all of a sudden, the losing team starts pulling out all the dirt to discredit the other team. Or they start putting money into certain companies to say, hey, vote for me. It is exactly what they're doing. And exactly what's happening, guys. Politics has entered the freaking gaming world. And if we're not going to be quick to second, we need to speak up. We need to say something about it. It's a long video. And if somebody wants to short this and make a video about it, go ahead. I'm not going to demonetize you. Because honestly, I want to hear your thoughts too. I will give everybody full right permission to take this video and edit themselves and talk about it. I will not hit you for demonetization regardless what you say. Because I want the truth. I came at you guys truth. I came at you guys hard. And I get that most of you might feel upset right now, and I get it. I'm coming at you guys hard, but I wanted the community to understand that this is not the way the community should have been. This is not what I was raised to when I thought the gaming. Okay, it used to be so simple. Just go to your friend's house and just play a game. And enjoy it. And it didn't matter what console you were on. It didn't matter what system you had. It just mattered if you had a system at all. If you didn't have a system, then you were booed. But if you did, then we didn't care. Because all the games were good. They looked at the quality. They started making quality games, not quantity. They started putting care in their services. They started putting care in how they treat their customers. They started putting care in their prices. They didn't care if they took a loss on the consoles. They cared about how much they could make on the games. As long as we all could play their games. And their games were content. If you really want to test that, go look at the guy who created E.T. And see what happens when that company who wanted E.T. to be pushed out to Christmas time, and in a time where it took a year or 2 years to make games, asked that guy to make an E.T. game in 6 months just so they can make sales. And it flopped so bad. It was one of the worst mistakes he has ever did to history. And he was a great game developer. And he even said this is nearly impossible. And he had to crunch it on an airplane last minute still to even still get something out. This was horrible. It was the worst game ever to come to console. It didn't even sell. Every game got returned back if it didn't. And that's because movies wanted to get involved with this. It's exactly when a gaming company has no idea about gaming besides what they've always pushed on their own consoles when they come to PCs. If Microsoft would have just stuck to PCs, they would have been fine. They could have done PC versus PS5 like they always done. PC versus this. And that would have been fine. And the consoles could have still been console warred. And that's how it always was. But they had no idea how to really build a console. They don't. They never do. They're putting the same fucking shit in their consoles that they put in their PCs. And they can't do it because they don't have they don't have the technology. They never did. They never had the mindsets to make them in that smaller thing. And even when the devs are telling them so, they don't listen. Because the investors put so much money into this idea already that Microsoft, from somebody who had no idea, pitched them an idea that we could fit something in a box and get the great graphics out of it. Instead, you got a microwave oven about to fry up your TV because it's radiating so much heat. And that's normal. Heat gets this radiated out. But come on. You put the power button next to the heat area? Come on. Put it down below where none of the heat's coming out of. Any freaking 2-year-old genius would have figured that out. You put the console on, you test the console, and you say, oh, it's hot. Okay, well, maybe you should design the power button to be down below. So nobody has to touch the top. Come on. It's sickening to hear this. It's sickening to see it, to be honest. But, yeah. It doesn't mean I'm not going to go buy an Xbox, because obviously, if you want to play games, you're kind of forced to. Especially if you want to play Halo, or you want to play some of the good games that came out, or some of the games I used to play when I was a kid, when I was still young, and I was playing the Xbox One and all that. It's like if Nintendo came out with a game console, I would go back immediately and buy it. No matter what their status were this year. No matter how bad the Switch came out. It's like if Atari would have come back out with their games. I would still go back and play it. Why? Because to me, I've had memories with those games. And those games that I remember mean a lot. It's kind of like their IPs. Back in those days, the IPs meant a lot to even us. We cared about their IPs just as much as we were. It was like we adopted their IPs as a family. So when we played Final Fantasy, or we played, Mario, we cared about that character so much. Anybody dishonored that, we freaking killed them out of it. Like, if you try to hack Mario, we would ban you so fast. We'd even beat you up in school for it. Because Mario was not meant for that. Mario was such an iconic. We had iconic IPs. And if we can go back to that route and back to that era and remember that the IPs is what made the game consoles, not the consoles. And if we were to treat the devs or the studios were to treat their games with that much respect again, instead of getting on all this hype between the politics between which console's going to be better and why they should go with them instead of them, and realize that all gamers don't care whether they are, just want access to all the games, we would be looking at a world where we still have all those games, and the IPs, the limited edition ones, yeah, keep them on the same consoles. Get that. You can still have your little console war. But don't take a company that has never gave you a real IP in the beginning and turn around and take it all those games from another game console that you could never had rights to those IPs in the first place. And I'm sorry to say that. No, I just don't like that. You know, you had Gears 5, you had Halo. Come up with another IP. Come up with something else. But I get it. You guys are limited because you guys always started out being the shooter console. And that's true. Xbox was known for its shooters. Nintendo was known for its RPG, animation, family home games. And PlayStation 1 was known for the glorious shit of Mortal Kombat and beyond that. All the other games that you couldn't get anymore, they were known for that. And Final Fantasy. They were known for their role-playing and story mode and epic cinematics, and that's what they're known for. And Halo was a shooter game. That's what you guys were known for. Medal of Honor, Call of Duty, and you're just giving it so much up. Xbox could do a lot better by just sticking to their own IPs and creating new ones, instead of actually buying out a company and telling them they can't put those games or newer versions of those games out for the PS5. That's how I feel. I don't know. Well, anyway, let me know what you guys think below in the comments below. As I said, if you're a YouTuber creator or content creator, you're welcome to take this video and do what you want with it. I'm sorry it took so long, but that is just my thought. Yes, you guys can get the Xbox for cheaper if you guys really look into it. I suggest you do your own research. Find out what's best for you. There is 4 other types, so don't just rely on that type if you think you can't do it that way. Remember, there's 4 other types I've heard. So, I think it's 4, right, honey? It's 4 other types? Yeah, so there's 4 different ways. I know one of the ways only gets you the unlimited for 2 years. So, I think that's the only... I don't know. But it's a mess. And it's not because... It's just because the way everything's been with COVID and everything. And relations being delayed last minute. But, to those people. Other than that, thank you. Everybody that I got the credit to from the stories that I heard the credit from and what I've been listening to. Thank you, Spawnwave. Thank you, Woods and all of them for giving me the info. Dreamcast Guy, Beat 'em Ups, RGT85, all you guys that I've been following since before I even had a Switch. And before I even had some of the consoles still. Thank you. Because it's helping me learn from you guys what you guys find out as well. And it's helping me understand where everybody's coming from a little bit better. And I'm glad I was able to give my piece into it and my idea on it and what I remember. And if anybody relates to you, go ahead. It says if you guys want to do something with this video, be my guest. New updates. Starting Sunday, hopefully, we're going to be doing of this November? December Sunday. The first Sunday of December, we're going to be doing news channel. Where news like this is going to be shorter. It's going to be top topics, and I'm going to have an intro, and it's going to be a news channel. We're gonna actually call it something. It is gonna be tied to this channel. I think I might just create a whole nother YouTube for it. I may not. I may just put a playlist at the bottom. And then eventually we're working on some podcasts, and there will be, I have to put this in here, there will be 2 Blink commercials starting in the videos. I have to do them. I'm sorry. I've been running a little bit behind between my PCs not working and sending stuff to the editor. It's been a little bit difficult because we don't have everything we need. So between all that, that kind of waits out. We're praying everything will start, and then we'll work there. Thank you guys so much. I got to get to my family and take care of you guys self and be happy and happy gaming. And remember, there's no ill between either consoles. Go out and get whatever console you want. Have fun with it. Be a blast and find out what you guys love. Alright, guys.